I want to discuss coaches that right now, if they can't win big next season, they potentially could be out of a job around the same time next year. We got to start off with Sonny Dykes. They went to the national championship game. Georgia beat the shit out of them. And then how does he follow that up? Well, he goes 5-7 this past season. TCU, they did lose a lot of talented players to the draft. A lot of their veterans from last year's team graduated. But nobody expected TCU to not even be able to make it to a bowl game. And if Sonny Dykes can't turn this thing around and TCU can at least get the 8-9 wins in the Big 12 conference that is going to be without Texas and OU, then he possibly could be in that Gene Chizik, Ed Orgeron discussion. When you look back at Sonny Dykes' coaching resume, when he was coaching at Cal and SMU, it wasn't like this dude was consistently putting up great seasons year after year. He'll have an 8-win, 9-win, maybe a 10-win season here or there, but he wasn't consistently looking like a juggernaut as a head coach at those previous programs. TCU going 5-7 after coming off a national championship appearance is really disappointing. If he can't find a way to win at least 8 games in 2024, you possibly got to start looking at him as the next Gene Chizik or Ed Orgeron. Billy Napier, this dude has to find a way to make Florida relevant again in 2024 because it's not looking pretty for him down there in Gainesville. It's looking really dark. Florida, they weren't a team that many people had high expectations for coming into 2023. They have a fairly young team, but it's still no excuse to go 5-7. Their best win was when they beat Tennessee at home. And Billy Napier, he also has struggled to make the right hire at defensive coordinator. Austin Armstrong, he has been no better than the previous DCs that Florida has had come down there. So Billy Napier can't find a way to have Florida playing at a high level in 2024. I believe that there's no way this dude is going to get a 4th season. Year 3, there's no more excuses for you. The biggest selling point with Billy Napier has been recruiting and the fact that he's a pretty good coach when it comes to having your team prepared for big games, but we haven't seen that. And I'm a little bit biased when it comes to Billy Napier, despite me being a Miami Hurricanes fan, because I watched a lot of film when he was coaching at Louisiana Tech with Elijah Mitchell. So I'm giving this dude a little bit more leeway than what most people are. But you have to start producing some results. And with how tough Florida's schedule is going to be, and the new look SEC with Texas and Oklahoma coming into town in the conference now, you really question if Florida is ever going to be able to have a winning record with Billy Napier being their football coach. I mean, they start their first game of 2024 against the Miami Hurricanes. Mario Cristobal, also a coach who probably should be on this list because he needs to win big next season. Billy Napier, the recruiting has kind of went down the last couple of weeks. Has Florida fans panicking. He can't really make the proper staff hires. The play calling isn't great. There's a lot of adjustments that Billy Napier needs to make. And if he doesn't make them and they're not successful in 2024, without a doubt, he's going to be without a job. He's not going to get a 4th season. One thing about that Florida fan base and one thing about that program down there, they give you enough time, but they're not going to give you 4 years when you're not being able to put up winning seasons. I mean, even his first season, they got blown out by Oregon State in their bowl game. Billy Napier needs to win more than any other coach in the SEC, not named Sam Pittman. Tony Elliott at Virginia, he's been the coach of the Cavaliers for the past 2 seasons, and they haven't won any more than 3 games. We need to start seeing some progress out of this program in 2024. This dude is a really good leader. He showed really great leadership when UVA had a lot of tumultuous things going on off the field with their university. I give him a lot of props for that. They also pulled off a big-time upset against UNC this past season. But to go 3-9 for your first 2 seasons, that definitely has to put you in that hot seat category come next year. Virginia should at least be able to contend for a bowl game. And nobody expects for Virginia to be a championship contender or to even win the ACC championship. But under Bronco Mendenhall, this was a respectable program. This was always a program that you could look at and say, yeah, they're not going to be a contender in the ACC, but they at least are going to be a quality team where they can win 6 to 8 games. And that's probably all Virginia fans are expecting. They're not expecting anything fantastic. They don't have high expectations. Tony Elliott has it pretty made at Virginia. 3-9, and his first season, 3-7, unacceptable. You know, like, yeah, Virginia was in a rebuild, but even this year, they possibly could have at least won at least 5 games. You know, you got to start seeing some growth out of Tony Elliott there at Virginia. This was somebody who was on Dabo Swinney's staff. And a lot of people that come from that Dabo Swinney coaching tree, they don't work out. There was one guy who was a former OC for Dabo who got the head coaching job at USF, and he got fired only a couple of years in. And USF had no progress. Is Tony Elliott going to be another failed Dabo Swinney coaching tree hire? The best coach that Dabo Swinney has had, without a doubt, has been Brent Venables. That's it. Tony Elliott, the offense hasn't really looked great at Virginia, and I do know that they are rebuilding. And I have to, rephrase what I just said a couple of seconds ago, like 3 wins your first 2 seasons. I don't know if it's really acceptable when you look back at the games that Virginia played in this season. If you can beat North Carolina, why couldn't you find a way to win at least 2 more other games and at least continue to be bowl eligible? This program has went down ever since Bronco Mendenhall stepped down as the head coach of this football program. And for Tony Elliott, we need to start seeing some results out of this dude eventually. And 2024 is probably going to be the year that is going to decide his fate in Virginia. Lincoln Riley, you talk about dudes who have one of the hottest seats in all of college football walking into next year. Billy Napier, Lincoln Riley, and Sam Pittman, they take the cake. USC, remember before this season started, people looked at this team as not only being the top team in the Pac-12, but a legitimate contender to make it into the college football playoffs. Well, they didn't live up to neither of those expectations. They didn't go to the Pac-12 championship. They didn't make it to the college football playoffs. The main reason for it was because this defense was god-awful under Alex Grinch. And this offense was fairly inconsistent. They had an awful showing against Notre Dame. Against Oregon, they didn't play their best ball offensively in that game neither. Going 7-5, coming off 11-win season, your first year at USC was really disappointing. And going into the Big Ten in 2024, you addressed your defensive coordinator position. You stole D'Anton Lynn from your rival UCLA. Lincoln Riley has to get USC buzzing, and he has to do it fast, because if we see the same product in the Big Ten that we saw this past season, I don't even know if he's going to make it through another season in USC. The expectations are always high when you're coaching at that school. You have easy recruiting access. California produces some of the most talented players in all of the nation, so you don't really got to leave out the state. You got a lot of money, a lot of resources to buy whoever, to get whoever you want in the transfer portal. You can pretty much hire the best assistants possible. There's no excuses for USC going 7-5. Lincoln Riley, they're giving this dude way too much money, and I have a lot of respect for Lincoln Riley. So for him to have the worst season that he's ever had, I strongly doubt that this is going to continue. He should be able to turn things around next season, but he definitely has to start winning some games at USC in 2024. And with how tough the Big Ten is, you got Washington and Oregon following you along. You already got Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State that you're going to have to deal with. It's going to be really tough for Lincoln Riley, but I do think he's capable. But he definitely has to be on this list. He has to win big. Next up, we got my dude Sam Pittman. We talk about how Billy Napier probably has the hottest seat in the SEC going into 2024, but Sam Pittman, he's alongside with them. The thing with Sam Pittman has been that this program, they lost a really good offensive coordinator and a really good defensive coordinator. Their DC, Barry Odom, was the head coach of UNLV this past season. In his first year there, he led them to the Mountain West Conference. And his other offensive coordinator, I believe it was Kendall Briles, He went to TCU, and he was really good, and Sam Pittman didn't really do a good job at nailing their hires when it came to the replacement. He fired Dan Enos. He didn't even make it through the season. I'm a Hurricanes fan. I could have told you that hiring Dan Enos wasn't going to work out. And then you bring in Bobby Petrino, who formerly used to be the head coach at this program. That's a sign of desperation. And at 4-8 in 2023, things still don't look a lot of promising down there in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And I like Sam Pittman. He's a high character guy. It seems like the players really love to play for him. And everybody seems to love the dude. But just because you love somebody doesn't mean you're going to give them a lot of time to stick around. And at one point, it looked like Arkansas was on the rise. 3-7 his first season. Then he had a 9-win season in 2021. And then you win only 7 games a year after that, but you have to deal with a lot of injuries that season. We get it. But going 4-8 this year, holy cow. It's like, yeah, Sam Pittman, like, your ass better start winning some games in 2024, and you got to win big, and it's going to be tough. I mean, Billy Napier, Florida has a tough schedule, but Arkansas' schedule next season is even tougher. They got a gauntlet. So not only does Sam Pittman have to win big, but he's going to have to do it against some of the top teams, not only in this conference, but in the sport. So good luck to you, Sam Pittman. I'm glad that I'm not in your shoes. Arkansas is a really good job. It's not one of the high-end jobs, but people seem to forget that this is a top 15, top 20 program all time in wins. You get the right guy in here and you can have success. And their ceiling isn't just 10 wins. At one point, Arkansas under Bobby Petrino was competing arguably for SEC titles. I don't think they made it to a SEC conference championship game, but they were contenders in that conference. With Sam Pittman, even if Arkansas was able to have a respectable record, you're not going to really look at them as a team that's a threat to compete for this conference title. But going into 2024, Billy Napier, Sam Pittman, both of these dudes probably have the hottest seats, not just in this conference, but in all of college football. I was surprised that they even brought this dude back for one more season for how bad things went this past year. And lastly, I got my dude Mario Cristobal. Now, he went 7-5 this season, right? And he easily could have won 8-9 games. You had the awful coaching blunder at the end of that Georgia Tech game, and you had a couple of other games that you had a good amount of turnovers in. But if you didn't have those, you possibly could be looking at a 9-win season if you're Mario Cristobal. Now, I forget who Miami's playing in their bowl game. I don't really care about them winning that bowl game, to be honest with you, because bowl momentum doesn't really mean anything. Mario Cristobal next season, Miami needs to be competing for the ACC conference. Okay, the talent's going to be there. He's going to have a couple of recruiting classes in there now. You're going to have a really good quarterback from the transfer portal starting for you next year, whether that be Will Howard, Cam Ward, or whoever. I need to start seeing some big-time results out of Mario, man. I've been a Hurricanes fan for my whole entire life. And the best head coach I've ever seen at this school was Mark Richt. That one season when we won 10 games and the turnover chain was a big thing and we got smacked by Clemson in the ACC championship and we lost the Orange Bowl to Wisconsin, and that was it. That's the most success that I've experienced as a Hurricanes fan since I've been a fan of this program. And I was born back in '02, so I got to go back to watch the glory days. I would like to actually live in the glory days. And if Mario Cristobal can't get this program to 9-10 wins next season, then he wouldn't be no better than Manny Diaz or Mark Richt or even Al Golden. Maybe Miami is just one of those programs that they just aren't what they used to be anymore. Maybe this just is a program where at best you're going to get 9-10 wins on your best years and you're just going to be a 6-7 win team, regardless of where you are when it comes to your recruiting location. People think just because you live in the South Florida area, it's easy to recruit, but you got to be able to keep these guys in state, and you got to keep them from going to the other Florida schools like FSU in Florida. You know, it looks like an easy job, and Miami does have pretty solid facilities, but they still do have to improve them. UCF has better facilities than Miami. You know, but when it comes back to Mario Cristobal's performance as a head coach, I'm expecting a big year out of him in 2024. I haven't had high expectations for Miami in a couple of years. I'm going to have them next year in 2024. And am I crazy too? I mean, like, you look at the talent that they're going to have next year. You look at the fact that the quarterback position is going to improve. The defense should be really good. The offense could arguably be the offensive line could arguably be one of the best in college football next year. Am I crazy for expecting Mario Cristobal to have Miami competing for the ACC championship in 2024? I don't think I am. And if Miami once again goes 7-5 or they only win 8 games, it would be a disappointment to me. Manny Diaz was able to win 8 games. Mark Richt was able to win 8 games. You see, the problem with these head coaches that Miami hires is that once they get to 8-9 wins or 10 wins, that's it. They never continue to elevate the program. Is Mario Cristobal going to be able to elevate Miami back to the powerhouse that they used to be in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s? So these are the list of coaches in college football that must win big in 2024. Let me know if there were some guys that I left out. Maybe there's a guy on this list that you feel doesn't deserve to be on it. Give your thoughts in the comment section down below.